All right, we're starting another recording today. I've got Amy and Kyle Jones. You guys don't get to see their smiles, but they're smiling, so that's a good thing. Do you guys ever not smile out of curiosity?
Our kids have a way of bringing out the non-smiles.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad to be able to sit down. We're going to hit them with a few questions, rolling through all this. So let's start with Amy. Let's tell everybody first about where you grew up, which I know is a large part here, but tell us kind of like elementary school, junior high, stuff like that. Where were you?
All right. Well, I was born in the Pasadena, San Marino area, and I was there until I was about fifth grade, and that's when we moved here into Rancho Santa Fe, and we were in the Del Mar ward, which was really neat. So,
And your parents were?
Alan and Jerry Johnson, for those of you who might remember them. And this word is really, really special to me because my family had been inactive pretty much my whole life when we moved here. And this is the word that reached out and got us involved in the church again. And so I have a really special place in my heart for the Del Mar ward. So it's good to be back.
So while you tear up, we'll pivot to Kyle for a second. It's actually fun to hear a little bit about that. So, Kyle, where'd you grow up?
I grew up all over. I mean, for the most part, when I was born in Utah, but then moved to Port Hueneme, up Ventura County, for 6 years. And then we moved back to Utah, and I grew up primarily in North Ogden.
Okay.
Up until, 28 or 29, then lived in Salt Lake City.
Did you go to high school up there?
Yes.
Tell me about high school. What'd you do? Any activities? What was school like for you?
Oh, school was great. We had a huge school, 3,000 kids, a handful that didn't go to seminary. I was involved with all the marketing and the business classes, competed at state and national levels through that, played sports in junior high and high school, or junior high, not high school, but that was it. Pretty calm. Our school was mainly farmers, and so.
Which high school was it?
We were high school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My brother actually lived up there for a while, so I was trying to place it in my mind. Mm-hmm. What did you, like weekends, what did you like to do for fun in high school?
Nothing illegal.
Even if it was, it's okay.
We were just crazy kids. It's funny that you ask. My three best friends, and I just...
You went cow tipping.
I've been cow tipping. I have borrowed traffic control devices and shut off major roads and trapped people on them. I put them on people's houses. We've collected Christmas trees that everyone has discarded and planted them in someone's front yard. So the standards. Nothing.
What a sweet service project.
Yes, it was great.
Trying to spread Christmas cheer.
Yes.
That's right, all year round.
Yes. So that was it. I still remain close with them. Literally just got back a couple of days from traveling with my best friend. So it's a good time.
What is maybe a pivotal high school moment for you that you can remember?
Junior in high school, I had seminary with a guy named Steve Hall, who now works for the church. He was the Young Men's General Secretary, but he went out of his way and solidified my testimony. Like, I remember it very clearly, being in seminary class and gaining that testimony. I can tell you without a doubt, it was that early kind of spring day. So,
was it? What did he do that was so special that helped your testimony grow?
He had a testimony of Joseph Smith, and I always believed, but I didn't know. And he challenged us to know, to pray about it. And I remember very clearly praying about it, and praying about it, and really putting in the time and putting in the effort and coming to that realization. And once I had the testimony of Joseph Smith, and the rest of it all fits together so perfectly. So I very clearly remember that.
You know what's interesting? You said something about a spring day. What do you recall about that spring day or whatever it is in your mind?
And actually, I remember it because it was not cold after Utah winter. But I remember it more so because it was like we were going to ditch seminary because it was fourth period right before lunch. And it was a beautiful day, and we talked about going to see Brother Winchell's. And I just remember it was a great day, and it was a glorious day, and why wouldn't you go leave campus? But we decided to go to seminary instead. And that was like the moment for me. So at the minute.
Isn't it interesting? I was asking about this because it seems like the Spirit brings things to our mind and to our remembrance that other experiences don't. Those spiritual things just like we all have those experiences. I can remember praying and being in my room and what my room looked like and how it smelled. And you have this experience with spring that day that just resonates with you. We don't need angels. That Spirit just brings it somehow. Mm-hmm. Interesting. All right, so now you've had a chance to compose, Amy. So now we're back to, actually, before we get into, spiritual side, tell us about growing up here in Rancho Santa Fe. What was it like for you?
When I moved to Rancho Santa Fe, I had gone to a school before that had not had any sports, but when I got here, I was like a 5'9" sixth grader. And so immediately got recruited into volleyball and basketball, and that kind of became my trajectory all through high school. I was into all the sports.
Torrey Pines or?
Torrey Pines,
okay.
Yeah. So I played volleyball and basketball there, and I don't know, just had a great experience. Great friends from church, and it was great growing up here.
What was the most trouble you guys got into around here?
Disclaimer.
No. Oh, we just did all the, stupid things. I had a huge group of friends. At the time, we all started hanging out with like everybody that were the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the stake. All the San Diego kids and the Torrey Pines kids and everybody, we all hung out in a big group, and we would just do dumb things like have toilet papering wars and go ice blocking on golf courses and all the dumb things you do.
I asked some of the kids, like about a year or so ago, we were planning an activity. I said, hey, why don't we go ice blocking for a joint activity? And they all looked at me like, what's that? They don't know what ice blocking was.
I know, like the era has died and we need to bring it back. That was fun.
Yeah, we just need a good hill. I know where they all are, but anyway, that's an aside. So what was your favorite beach?
We really, at the time, we all went to the Del Mar beaches, so like 15th Street sometimes, or it just depended. Well, a lot of times we'd meet at 20th Street.
Okay.
So
I'm curious now how your family got drawn back into church activity as you came to this. Who was the bishop at the time, just to put it in context?
I think, you just put me on the spot.
Wendell Smoot or before Wendell?
It was before Wendell. I almost want to say, I think Rob Hemingway was in the bishopric at the time. He was later going to, President Dyer was... No, he was never my bishop. I don't remember.
He was probably stake president at the time, though.
Yes, he was definitely my stake president. That's bad. I don't remember my bishop.
That's all right. I was just doing it for context, just because other people will remember that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So tell us about the experience.
So at the time, I had maybe gone to church a handful of times in my life. Enough to where I would have said I'm a Mormon, but I didn't really know anything about what that meant. And I remember, unbeknownst to me, I guess the new ward was very aware of our family moving in and discussed us. At the time, June Hemingway was my age, and the Coltons, Kim Colton, Mindy Steffery, all those people there was a big youth group at the time, and the Alexanders, Philip Alexander. There was a big youth group at the time. And so these girls kind of brought me in, and one night we had a sleepover at Kim Colton's house, and the next morning every girl got up and got ready for church, and I was the only one like, and they're like, oh, Amy, do you want to go home, or do you just want to borrow a dress and come with us? And it was kind of awkward because I didn't want to go to 3 hours of church. That sounded terrible, but I also didn't want to turn it down, so I was like, I guess I'll borrow a dress and go with you. But I'll never forget, as I was sitting there in Sunday school, Jim Schmedding, for those who remember the Schmeddings, Jim Schmedding was teaching the lesson on the plan of salvation. And as I heard that lesson, I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I joke around that it was like kind of like that in Alma when you have Ammon teaching and like King Lamoni and everyone's passing out, being overcome with the Spirit so much that they're fainting. I kind of can relate to that because I felt the Spirit so strongly that I just felt like my whole body filled with light. And it was such a powerful feeling. And so I came home that day and I asked my parents, I'm like, can we be Mormons? I really want to go to this church. And my mom, ironically, who was the convert, was like, yeah, great, that will be our church. We'll go to that church. And my dad, who had been raised in the church, he was like, oh, if I start going, I'm going to get callings, and I'm not really sure
right.
I'm ready to put in that kind of work. And so he was a little resistant. But his cousin is Ed Hawking, who used to be the bishop of this ward. And Ed was on, when the temple, San Diego temple was being built, he was on the temple committee and asked my dad to be the accountant for the temple. And my dad said, Ed, I'm not even a member. Like, I'm not even going. And he said, that's okay. You can still help us do all the math. And so he did. Mm-hmm. And they would always have meetings right before sacrament meeting. And so he was already at the church and he was already in a suit. And so he just started staying, and that the temple brought our whole family back. And so we were the first family that was sealed in the San Diego temple.
Really?
Yeah. When it was completed, we were the first.
What do you remember about that day?
A silly memory, but I remember they put us in this, like, the children's waiting area, and the sweet temple workers were like, we were not prepared for teenagers. We have felt boards and Barbies and Legos, and we're supposed to explain to you the temple on a felt board, like primary style. And we're like, it's okay, just do whatever you do. And they're like, I'm sorry in advance. And they just started giving us a primary lesson on what the temple was about. But it was really sweet.
That's awesome. The first family sealed in the temple.
Yes.
That's amazing. What a cool memory.
It was a cool memory.
That's awesome. Well, Kyle, after high school, what'd you do?
Went to a year of school and then went on a mission to Leeds, England.
Where'd you go to school?
Weber State.
Okay.
College.
Oh, that's right. It was college at the time, huh?
College at the time. That tells you how long ago that was. I went into quarter basis.
Oh, wow.
Not semesters.
Wow.
So did that, and then went on a mission, came back, graduated from Weber State with a degree in business.
So tell us about your mission. What did so you're in Leeds. You're there for a couple years. Tell us about that experience and what it was like for you.
It was hard. It was, as a lot of European missions are now, we didn't have a lot of baptisms.
When was this? What years?
It would be 93.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was not a lot of baptisms. Not a lot of people wanted to have you in. One thing that we did find was a lot of people that we talked to were already members due to a program or a push that was made years before where they introduced baseball to that specific part. And the only way you could play baseball was if you were a member of the church. And so they were getting baptisms left and right. So we'd run into tons of people that would say, oh, I'm already a Mormon. Well, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I haven't been there for 30 years, but they knew something. And so there was a lot of that. But a lot of very nice people, but not a lot of interest. People were very set in their ways.
Did you become a fan of a particular football club over there?
I like all football. The team that I liked at the time, I liked Arsenal, the Gunners.
Nice, thank you.
With Newcastle, bonded. A little bit there, a little Sunderland. But yeah, Arsenal was a good team at the time. They had Ryan Giggs at the team, or at the time they had, oh my gosh, a couple other guys that were fantastic. So.
Do you remember a particularly meaningful teaching or baptism experience that you had with somebody there?
I really remember a guy, his name was Malcolm McConaughey, who was an internal investigator, but he was knowledgeable, he knew about the gospel, but he just didn't believe. He knew, but he didn't believe, if that makes sense. He knew he knew all of the history, he knew all the lessons, but he didn't believe in them. And so we got to teach him. He did not get baptized while we were there, but he did get baptized after. I don't know what's happened to him since, but I just remember that was the first time I've ever known someone that knew all the Jeopardy answers, but just didn't believe them. So it was interesting. That gave me a lot of perspective, and it's not enough to carry forward to my life now. It's not enough to just go through the motions, right? It's better to be all in with a very little than be out with a lot.
So it's a good statement, good phrase. I like that. So post-mission, you came and finished at Weber, and after graduating, what did you do after that? What's been your career?
Oh, boy, that's a really good... So I went to work...
I remember you telling me about being a police officer or something, so I do need to hear all of these things.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so real fast. I worked for an industrial supply company, did that for 2 or 3 years, managed their... hold on, that's a different industrial supply company. For them, I was a trainer in new software, went all over the Intermountain West, taught them. After that job, I went to another industrial supply company where I managed the purchasing department. They're an interstate company. My brother at the time was a police officer with Salt Lake City. He asked me if I wanted to go on a ride-along with him that night within 10 minutes of leaving briefing. High-speed chase, guns drawn. I was like, this is the coolest job ever. But the only way that I could do that, I was living on my own, paying my own bills, all that good stuff. I couldn't quit and put myself through the academy. I needed to be hired by someone. So I spent a couple of years trying to be hired. Finally, the Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office took a chance on me. 1 year, they hired 37 people, and I was the only person from the street. No experience, nothing. And so the day I quit that job was the day I met Amy. And then went to the police academy and did that for a brief period of time. And then we decided to move down here. And actually, our first ward as a married couple in California was the Del Mar ward.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Bishop Romney.
Good old days.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So there you go. That's how I got to that.
Okay, so let's come back to Amy. So after high school, what did you do?
I went out to BYU, spent a couple years there, went on a mission to the Dominican Republic, and came back from a mission, met him a year or so later, and married this guy.
All right, so go back to mission.
Yes.
How'd you make the decision? So that's a bit ago. That wasn't when as many women went on missions. Why did you decide to serve a mission?
The moment I kind of really encountered the church for myself and I knew that it was true, I was on fire. I wanted to share it with everybody. I was like, I'm going to go on a mission. I want to tell the world. I was all gung-ho to the point where I had friends at high school that one of my friends was like, what is it about Mormons that you're always trying to convert everyone else? And that was literally the first time it ever occurred to me that people didn't want to hear what I had to say. Because I was like, everyone should want this. This is great. I'm so happy and I'm so full of light. And I was just like so excited to share it. And so I was like, I better be a little careful about how I share the gospel. But I knew I was going to serve. And so that wasn't even a question. And I served a little bit after President Hinckley had just given that, like, don't force girls to go on a mission just because they're not married. And so the numbers went way down, but I knew that was my life path.
So DR, you must have been the tallest blonde in the entire country.
Yeah, I think I stood out. So
did you get any illnesses down there?
No.
You stayed healthy.
Oh yeah, I got an iron stomach.
That's great.
Yeah.
Coolest mission experience that you can share?
Oh man, there were so many. The DR was awesome. It was kind of the opposite of his experience. It was so great. The people were so prepared. The coolest experience was we were teaching a woman and her brother lived with her. They were like in their 40s and we were trying to get him to come in into our discussions too. And we tried a couple times and finally he came in. He said, okay, I'll listen to your discussions if you can answer one question. Like, okay, sure. And he's like, I've asked every single priest and pastor and religious leader I could have ever met, and nobody's been able to answer this. I'm like, this is going to be, okay, what's your question? He said, do you know what the Melchizedek priesthood is? Like, oh my gosh, okay.
Softball.
We can work with this. And so we started talking to him, and he ended up joining the church. So, but that was his question. He was golden.
How did he have that question?
He said he kept reading in the Bible. He was very active Bible scholar, and he kept reading about Melchizedek priesthood, and that's why we're like, do you know what the Melchizedek priesthood is? And he's like, it's in this, this chapter, this chapter, this chapter. He started pulling all these different references. He's like, but every time I ask anyone, no one knows what it is.
Huh, that's great.
So that was a pretty cool experience.
All right, so then you're back from your mission.
Yes.
How'd you guys meet?
I had a friend, she'd been my roommate at BYU, and she, when she graduated, moved kind of next door to him in their apartment complex. And she thought we would be a perfect couple. And being kind of the devious person that she was, she knew that nobody ever does well on blind dates. So she just kind of orchestrated us meeting each other at a Christmas party. And she was right. We immediately hit it off. And
How did she orchestrate that? In my mind, I was kind of like, did she like guide the two of you guys to like bump into each other or what?
well, ironically, okay, he at the time, one of his roommates was this tall, good-looking basketball player. And so she told him, she's like, you are not coming because you'd be a distraction to her. And then his other roommate was a big player that was a huge flirt. And she's like, and you are not coming because you'll just flirt with her and dominate her the whole night. So she's like, only Kyle is allowed to come to this party. There's someone I want you to meet. She didn't say it was me. So he actually, the girl he thought he was there to meet, he never once talked to the whole night.
Good move.
Yeah, worked out well.
And I had no idea that I was there to meet anyone. We were just good friends. She knew I'd come. So I showed up and we started talking and spent most of the night making fun of each other, which apparently for me
Worked
translates
really well.
to love at first sight when he mocks me. So
What did you think when you met her?
I was blown away. First, I mean, I clearly remember her walking in the door and thinking that, I mean, not to be cheesy, but I mean, honestly, that an angel was like in the room. And then we started speaking, and she's the smartest person that I know and the most spiritual person that I know. And it came across. And the physical beauty was so outmatched by her inner beauty and her inner spirituality that I was like, oh my goodness. I mean, that night I knew that there was something incredibly special about her. So.
you're sweet.
That is sweet. How long did you guys date before you married?
Oh boy, 18 months, give or take.
Yeah.
Why did it take so long, Kyle? Come on.
Because she was still going to school.
Mm.
And I was working, and then I drugged my feet a little much. And so, yeah, I knew it, and then didn't take the steps necessary.
But you got there.
Eventually got there, yes.
All right. Tell us about your family. You got 3 kiddos.
Oh, okay, yes. 3 kids. Senior, junior, 8th grader.
Not a junior, sophomore.
Sophomore, soon to be junior, yes. I meant in the future tense. Thank you. Just wonderful. Lincoln is our senior. Emerson is the sophomore. Ainsley's our 8th grader.
What do they like to do?
They are very, very different. Lincoln, this move to the Del Mar Ward, Lincoln found his people finally, which was wonderful. He is into science and books and Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, he discovered the wonderful world of Dungeons and Dragons when we moved into this ward, and
So
he's
over
never
at the
looked back.
Yeah, he's at the McPhee's a bit.
He was at the Conovers.
And the Conovers,
Yeah.
yes.
Because Claire got up and was either giving a talk or bearing testimony and mentioned Dungeons and Dragons, and Lincoln's head could not have flipped around faster. And he was all very, very interested in Claire, that someone like her was into Dungeons and Dragons. So
She's a rarity.
yeah, so he's really into that. Emerson is a typical teenage girl. She is wonderful. She is into singing and music and piano playing, and Ainsley is sports. She's dirt bike riding and hockey playing and what else?
Soccer, basketball, flag football. She does
Everything.
it all.
Everything.
Yeah.
She does it all. So we love to travel as a family. And so we've been fortunate enough to take some trips that have been pretty spectacular. But
Do you guys got a favorite trip that you've taken with the kids?
I would have no.
All of them.
All of them, yeah. There's places that we've been that,
My kids would say their favorite is Switzerland,
yeah.
because it was just like being out in the outdoors and the beauty of nature and hiking and zip lining and doing toboggans and whatever ropes courses on tops of mountains. They were in heaven.
That'd be
Yes.
fun. That's
Yeah.
really cool. How do you guys, I'm a people watcher. I watch from a distance. I'm not stalking, I promise. But my impression is that you're very intentional parents. How do you go about being intentional parents?
That is a great question. Okay, so this is going to sound silly, but I remember when Lincoln turned 6, and it's so stupid, but I had this crazy realization that we were 1/3 of our way done. That 18 is when we send him off into the world, and the closer they get to 18, the less they want to listen to you. And so I started kind of having this weird existential panic attack when he was 6 years old. That have I done what I should be doing? But I'm grateful for that because it suddenly made me okay, what are the things I want them to learn? What is important that I want them to go into the world with, and what skills, what knowledge, what experiences. And so we started at that moment. I was okay, I'm all in now. I'm doubling down on what I need them to know. So I think that has that weird crisis changed the way I looked at parenting.
That's a great idea. What do the two of you guys like to do nowadays? You got hobbies, things you do during the week? What are you guys into?
Well, we're parents, full-time parents. So.
Throwing Christmas parties and dressing up like elves.
Naturally. That's what we do every day.
Yeah.
I know.
Every day is Christmas.
I see why the Christmas trees spawn the rest of his life.
Yes. No, I mean, we both worked in the temple when it was open. And so we try to maintain that. We try to go to the temple once a week up to Newport Beach. Amy is involved with countless charities, devotes so much of her time between her seminary calling. I've never met anyone. I tell her this all the time, so she knows it. You will never meet anyone that has magnified their calling or loves their calling more than she does. Case in point, when we were getting ready to be released, she commented to President Eck.
I told Catherine Conover.
She said, when I'm released as Young Women's President and leaving anymore, I want to teach seminary. And President Eck was standing there and I believe was dumbfounded that someone was volunteering to teach seminary, and she has given it her all plus 100%. So
what he's not telling you is because I feel grossly inadequate to teach seminary, and so I have to give 100% just to be able to teach like other teachers teach normally. Shout out to Rebecca Burnett.
We do have some amazing seminary teachers in this ward, throughout the ward, and you guys bring some fun to that too. So, all right, how about just some of the unimportant stuff? Favorite movie? You guys got a favorite movie each?
Anything with The Rock is his.
Anything with The Rock.
I joke that he has a man crush on The Rock.
It's true.
I think we all do.
I mean, who doesn't? Amy would probably. I mean, I could name half a dozen.
Are they all Hallmark movies?
No, but we do watch a lot of Hallmark movies, and I will
Especially
hear nothing.
since my mom came in.
Yes.
To live with us.
She likes a lot of the classics, The Importance of Being Earnest, Fletch, The Man Who Knew Too Little.
Wait, you just tossed Fletch in there?
Oh, yeah.
Fletch is a classic.
Fletch is we just watched Fletch the other night, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great show. So,
That's
what would
awesome.
you say is your favorite movie?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know. It changes on what mood I'm in.
Yeah.
Those are all good ones, though. How about favorite place to eat in town, somewhere around here?
Oh, heavens.
101 Diner for me.
101, 100%.
I'm all about breakfast.
Yep.
Okay, that's a
Yep.
good spot. I like it.
They've got really good breakfast.
It's a good spot. Last question I can think of. So, if you wanted your kids to know who Jesus Christ is to you, how would you express that to your children?
Wow, that's a great question. Because I wasn't raised in the church, and I have to say, I was only in middle school, really, when I found the church. But I have a little rebelliousness in my spirit. I am a rule breaker. I'm a boundary pusher. And so I knew that I would have been on a very bad path. I joke that Heavenly Father had to reclaim me in middle school, or I would have been lost forever. But because of that, I feel so grateful for my Savior as my Redeemer. as someone who paid the price for every stupid mistake I ever made, for every like selfish and dumb impulse and worldly piece of my personality, and that he suffered so that I could be forgiven. And that role as my Savior, my Redeemer, is so special to me. And also the enabling power of the atonement, that because when I accept him as my Savior, he can make me better, that he can magnify whatever I can bring to the table, and he can make it so much bigger and so much better than I could have ever done on my own. That is just something I'm just eternally grateful for. So that'd be my response to you.
Thank you.
I would say almost without a doubt, Amy especially, I try to be in her shadow. She lives as the Savior lives. Our kids see what it is to be charitable. They see what the pure love of Christ is in their mom, who gives all to the furtherance of the work upon this earth. So I hope that they can see by her example, mine not so much. But I would hope that they would be able to see an example, that they do see that example of really what the Savior looks like in our lives.
That's sweet. Well, thank you. I promised to get you guys done at a certain time, and we done it. And I'm grateful to listen to and learn from both of you. And we're great having, or love having you guys as part of this ward and part of this family, part of our family. So thanks for spending some time.
We're so grateful to be
Thank you.
back. Thanks.